Let's ride.
Good evening to our viewers in the West, and thank you for joining us on this Wednesday night. We begin with some breaking news right here in Washington, with the House of Representatives passing a bipartisan deal to raise the debt limit. The legislation allows the U.S. government to spend more money and pay its bills. The current debt is $31.8 trillion and counting. The bill now heads to the Senate as Congress races against the clock to prevent what could be disastrous consequences for the U.S. economy. Speaker Kevin McCarthy spent the last few days wrangling votes as angry Freedom Caucus members threatened his leadership position. Several hardline conservatives voted no after feeling betrayed by the agreement made with President Biden. On the other side of the aisle, a number of liberal Democrats also voted against the bill. CBS's Scott MacFarlane has been following the vote and starts us off tonight from Capitol Hill. Good evening, Scott.
Nora, it's a cliffhanger vote tonight with last-minute negotiations behind the scenes and some vocal protests on the U.S. House floor.
Racing toward the June 5th deadline and trying to avert a potentially cataclysmic default on America's...
5 minutes later.
Welcome to the News Hour. The U.S. House is set to vote on a debt ceiling deal tonight after Republicans got some help from Democrats to pass a crucial hurdle. The vote follows weeks of heated negotiations and criticism from the right and the left. Lisa Desjardins has been tracking it all on Capitol Hill and joins us now. So, Lisa, there has been lots of action on the House floor already today. Bring us up to speed on what happened.
Jeff, as many people know, the delivery process can be complicated in some instances, and that is the situation here now. This was a critical moment in the lifespan of this debt bill. It had to get past a hurdle, allowing it to even come up for debate on the House floor. Usually what happens is the party in charge decides which bills come to the floor, and they all vote to make that happen. But as we have been talking about, there were 24+ Republicans who opposed this bill and wanted to block it. So what happened? A slew of Democrats in the middle of the vote changed their vote, 50+ of them, in order to help this debt deal continue to move forward. It was a bit of quick drama, but the Democrats said we needed to do this. We felt like this is too important for our country. Now, what this all shows, what happened today, is that, number one, this is a very high wire act that both parties are trying to conduct here. And number two, it is in fact bipartisan, that this bill moving through its survival depends on both parties.
So we are a short time away from the big test, which is the House vote on the bill itself. Are the votes there right now, Lisa?
I'm looking at my watch and looking at my phone as House members get back to me. I have been checking in all day with folks who were undecided yesterday and this morning. And I will say in just the last hour, several of them, one Republican and 2 Democrats, have said they are now voting yes for this bill.
You what?
Friend, distinguished member of the Rules Committee from Texas, Mr. Roy.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank the Speaker. I thank the Chairman, the gentleman from Oklahoma, who is a gentleman, giving me time despite the fact I voted against the rule in the Rules Committee. I respect that. I respect it immensely, so that we can have a full and open debate here on the floor of the House. I listened to the gentleman from Massachusetts wax on, talking about governing. Well, we don't govern, Mr. McGovern. We represent. That's what we're supposed to do anyway, is represent the people of this country. Fed up with a government that is now 40% bigger since the beginning of COVID. A government barreling towards $36 trillion of debt and an absolute devastating burden on the future of this country, on our children and our grandchildren, who are not going to be able to afford homes, not be able to afford to go to school, not be able to afford food, groceries. Talk about food programs. I won't hear a whole hell of a lot about what we're doing to devastate American families with rampant inflation because we keep spending money we don't have. To my colleagues on this side of the aisle, my beef isn't that I don't understand the struggle with the negotiators against that kind of reasoning. My beef is that you cut a deal that shouldn't have been cut. The fact is, at best, we have a 2-year spending freeze that's full of loopholes and gimmicks that would allow for increased funding for the federal bureaucracy in order to achieve a $4 trillion increase in the debt by January 1 of 2025. $4 trillion. We have permitting reform, which might have some good elements in it, But the problem is you have the Biden administration saying it accelerate implementation of the historic clean energy and environmental justice investments in the Inflation Reduction Act, the very policies destroying the American way of life and making them unable to afford energy and afford their food. We have watered down work requirements the CBO just said will actually increase the cost of SNAP by $2 billion. A supposed 1% automatic top line reduction in spending at the end of the year that will actually make a Christmas omnibus more likely. A 2% cut to Biden's $80 billion IRS expansion. 2% of that $80 billion expansion. Administrative pay-go, I'm told. We're not going to do the REINS Act. We're not going to constrain the regulatory state. We're going to do a waivable administrative pay-go. Great. We'll pass a bill next week. Yay us. It'll die in the Senate. Why aren't we using this leverage? A complete punt to SCOTUS on the Biden administration's unfair $500 billion student loan bailout, billions in COVID dollars left untouched to fund things like vaccines and COVID-19 testing, and the loss of our biggest leverage points to force Biden to actually secure the southern border. I encourage my colleagues to vote no on the rule and to
built on legends, and that legends are a way of understanding things greater than ourselves, forces that shape our lives, events that defy explanation, individuals whose lives soar to the heavens or fall to the earth. This is how legends are born.